Welcome to Cage Minds MMA show. I'm Mika Frankl, getting the show up quite a bit later than normal. And yes, normally I thank you for joining, whether you're watching or listening. This time, even if you're on YouTube, it is basically just an audio show. We will have the Cage Minds logo up here for your visual, but not doing the video today. Just too tired, gotta be honest. Made my way along with Michael Carlisle, who do MMA After Hours on the After Hours Podcast Network, which you can also catch right here on CageMinds.com. We went out to Houston for UFC 271, and we drove from Albuquerque, New Mexico, out there to Houston. When you drive out there, we cross time zones, so we lose an hour automatically. And it's like a 14-hour drive, and I have a bad back, so every 2 hours we're stopping for at least 15 minutes for me to stretch, and then, go to the bathroom, maybe grab a sandwich out of the car. Takes a little bit out of you. Why would you road trip all the way to Houston? Because Ubering around Houston is a whole another beast in of itself. So all that led to be exhausting for 2 days. Led to being behind on prep work. So getting the show up a little bit later. It's no video today. Wanted to just throw that out, explain it to everybody. And I think actually I'm getting this show up after MMA After Hours is already circulating, which usually is the reverse order with the podcast that I do. Also, please check out Pro Wrestling After Hours there on the After Hours Podcast Network. This is the Cage Minds MMA show. And if you'd like to support Cage Minds and myself, everything that I'm doing, everything that we're putting on the Facebook page, the photographers that are helping me out, you can do so by purchasing some apparel. And that apparel is available at nmproshop.com. Still cold outside. Hoodies, beanies, even your mugs and your original logo t-shirts available there at nmproshop.com. When you get there, it's going to take you to where you will see the Cage Mind shop. You click there and you're able to check out all of our merchandise. So I always like to start off this week with looking back at last week. And we're going to take a trip around the world before we head to Houston. So let's start off with One Bad Blood. Anatoly Malkin defeats Kirill Grashenko by knockout to become your interim one heavyweight champion. We know that Artem Bular had dethroned the long reigning champion in Brandon Vera, and then promotion and champion hit a snag in contract negotiations, and voila, the interim title fight. So hopefully that one can get worked out. Now, while I was in Houston, UFC had about 4 different events going on. Didn't get to check out Showtime FC1 from Miami. Didn't really check out the Lux event because I had my eyes on the LFA and Fury FC. Fury FC 57, the main event, interim featherweight championship belt on the line. But there's drama at the weigh-ins. Hassan Aliyev shows up 3 pounds over the championship weight, so it's only a title fight for Andreas Quintana. Aliyev with some big overhand rights. I think 3 of them land between the first 2 rounds. Some snapping low kicks and pressing Quintana into the cage, looking for the takedown. A couple times getting the scoop, getting the takedown, and racking up a couple precious seconds before Quintana would pop back up. For the majority of the time, Quintana only able to get his jab going, and Aliyev with the knockdowns, with the takedowns, with the leg kicks, gets the victory. No title going around his waist. Interim belt. Well, the champion, even though he wasn't able to defend, is still his title thanks to the weight miss. Contender Series alum Diego Lopes picks up the 3rd round knockout. Hell of a one-punch knockout in just 12 seconds as Jose Johnson floors Delani Perry. Vicious, nasty stuff where Perry's toes were curled for minutes. Scary stuff there. And Bobby Moffett picks up the unanimous decision, the takedowns, grinding out Charles Cheeks III. Now as we look at the LFA, there in Phoenix, Arizona, Flyweight main event, Juicy Air Formiga. He gets the takedowns. He gets after it. Oh, excuse me. It was a bantamweight main event. Fight week, the fight was elevated from 125 to 135, and Formiga, unfortunately, still came in at 140. So there is something else going on there with the former UFC vet. I don't recall him ever missing weight in the UFC, but Formiga does get Felipe Bones to the ground and puts Bones to sleep just under 2 minutes into the second round. Way to get back into the win column. First time back on the regional scene. With the fight having to be at 140, I'd obviously expect to see Formiga in the LFA one more time. If not, trying to take a bantamweight fight, maybe even with an Eagle FC. Going to throw that out there. Also in lightweight action, Austin Verms was on the card. We had seen back-to-back spectacular armbar submissions from Verms. This time he's taking on another top prospect in Jacoby Jones. And the Star Killer does it once again. Yes, he does. He's put on his back and the jiu-jitsu comes through as Verms a third straight armbar victory. And Casey Tanner opens up the card, gets the takedown of Tristan Landy, and it's just 2 minutes and 16 seconds for the ground and pound to lead to the TKO victory. So your full results for LFA 124 are up on the website at cageminds.com. If you were on social media, and I have the fight card fully for Fury FC 57. Wasn't able to make it there in Humble, Texas. It's crazy, the traffic in Texas. So, leaving the UFC ceremonial weigh-ins from the Toyota Center in the afternoon with the Fury FC card starting, it basically said we're going to miss the entire prelims trying to drive across Houston to get to Humble, to get to the venue. The traffic is amazing in the worst way. I mean, it's amazing how big Texas is. Getting to Texas, told you we would. UFC 271, the atmosphere, the experience, it was electric. Instagram is at CageMinds_CSN. The Bobby Green introduction, the Derek Lewis introduction, the Israel Adesanya and Robert Whittaker walkouts, all those are there on the Instagram, so go check them out. Also, I'm sure you guys have seen by now, if you're listening to this show, you know who I am, and you know I asked Derek Lewis for a barbecue recommendation, and he hit me with a zinger that caught me off guard. A jovial beast he is. Fight night, like I said, something else there in Houston. Covered the UFC in Vegas, been the UFC in Vegas, and this was on another level. I don't know if it was just the card or it was a great night, but it was something else. The main event, still your middleweight champion of the world, Israel Adesanya defeats Robert Whittaker. He does it by scores of 49-46, 48-47, and 48-47. That means 4 rounds to 1, 4 rounds to 2, and 4 rounds to 2, 4 rounds to 1, 3 rounds to 2, and 3 rounds to 2 across the judges' scorecards. Both men came out looking to establish their low kicks. The champion definitely taking the first round, switching his stance from orthodox to southpaw and knocking the Reaper down with a straight left. Round 2 was much closer, with Whittaker getting a takedown and taking Adesanya's back. There live in person, because you can only score like the judge. Well, you're there live and in person. You watch it a second time, you get to go back and look at angles. And I haven't looked at any other angle than the angle that I saw live fight night. But even the people next to me, media row, kind of, I think it's 1-1 going into the second. Now, when you actually look at the real scorecard, that thought process was only shared by Mike Beltran. So there was an actual official that thought the second round went in favor of Whitaker. The third round, I've seen on social media, even Michael Carlisle and MMA After Hours said he scored the fight 48-47 Adesanya, but giving Whitaker rounds 3 and 4. I've seen on social media people saying they thought Whitaker won the fight, winning rounds 3, 4, and 5. See, I gave him rounds 2, 4, and 5. Thought Whitaker won the fight. Adesanya, on the scorecard where he wins 4 rounds, wins round 1, 3, 4, and 5. And interesting in that is that the majority of people that give Whitaker 2 rounds, a lot of them say the easiest round to score for Whitaker is round 5. Now, you may hear me talking about all that and think, is he going to call this a robbery? No, it wasn't a robbery. Obviously, in the first round, like I said, the knockdown. You want to tell me that in rounds 2 and 3, the leg kicks, a couple big body kicks, those are Adesanya rounds? I'll believe it. Rounds 4 and 5, it felt like Whitaker had talent in the corner. He was able to get on the inside more. The constantly having to defend takedowns of Adesanya gave Whitaker opens. He was having control time. I just make the argument that we have to say, even though Adesanya wins the fight, and I do believe he did more damage, this is a lot closer than what we've seen in these other title defenses. Yoel Romero, Adesanya was not a good fight. There was nothing really positive for Marvin Vettori or Paulo Acosta to take away from their fights. And honestly, well, it was a more dramatic, more electrifying, more momentum shifting of an encounter, the interim title fight with Adesanya and Gastelum. I just feel that this side of Jan Blachowicz at 185, that this is the first time I've scored the fight at all on the other side. That this is the first time that I thought Israel Adesanya lost on the scorecards. And that gives me hope to say, if there's anyone that's down 0-2 in a saga, in a series, Robert Whitaker may be able to earn himself a third shot at Israel Adesanya. And part of that has just been looking at the trajectory of the middleweight division. Jump to the feature fight, and Derek Brunson took down Jared Cannonier with great success about 3 times in the first round, really solidifying positions twice. Had a rear naked choke locked in, and Cannonier in a bad way. We don't know if the fight ever gets back to the feet if it's not for the whistle at the end of the round stopping the submission. It wasn't Cannonier defense, it was saved by the bell. If Jared Cannonier isn't Zach Morris right there, saved by the bell, Derek Brunson's maybe the number 1 contender, and Israel Adesanya is again looking at another rematch. Now we know that Cannonier changed the tide, landed some big shots, puts Brunson on his back in the second round, and finishes it with the knockout. Incredible damage done with the ground and pound from Cannonier. His power is eye-opening. It's jaw-dropping. It's damaging to the highest degree. But I don't know if he has enough tricks in the bag or is fast enough to catch Israel Adesanya when you saw the problems that Cannonier had against Whitaker and the one-sidedness of that fight. And with that fight having the broken arm, Cannonier just 1 fight removed. It's like, well, you're the best guy that hasn't beat Whitaker or Adesanya, and that's where we're at right now. Whitaker, there's names like Vettori. Vettori's had 2 opportunities and lost both himself to the champion. really Paulo Acosta shouldn't be part of the conversation because he's not a 185 pounder. Remember, he was a blowing up man the last time we saw him. And Sean Strickland, I'm guessing he does fight Marvin Vettori because he's coming off of a win. But there's no one that wouldn't say that Robert Whittaker versus Sean Strickland wouldn't be a lot of fun. But do you really want to knock Strickland, a possible title contender, out of the mix, knowing that's a possibility if he fights Whittaker? More than likely, I'm guessing that a Jack Hermanson versus Robert Whittaker fight would be on tap. They both be coming off of losses, and they've never fought before, because you look below that, and Till, Hall, and Gastelum were the 3 wins that got Whittaker right back into contention. Maybe Vettori, maybe Hermanson, obviously Adesanya Cannonier, and you're trying to line up Strickland so that he's fighting the Cannonier Adesanya winner. Zooming out from the division, Andre Muniz is the hottest name that I see making his way up the rankings. That's already broke in. Kevin Holland, he's at 170. I wish these rankings would update a lot more. He's at 170. Costa should be at 205. Nasruddin Imavov is right there. And Bruno Silva is going to be facing Alex Pereira. And one of those 2 knockout artists will be in the top 15 this year. In the co-main event, you got to give a lot of credit to Tai Tuivasa for a chin and for a great game plan and for evolving his game. But in the same right, there was a lot of positives to be shown from Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis showed clinch defense, wrestling offense, the inside trip. Can't believe Tai Tuivasa survives the big right hands when they hit the ground to make it to a second round. It looked like we were going towards a Derek Lewis fight because the power is so ferocious that it was keeping Tuivasa at bay. But Tuivasa did a great job of when he saw the big pitch, the overhand right, that fastball coming down the pipe, and it looked like it was going to hit him in the batter's box. He ducked and went low and came in for the takedowns, and if nothing else, was able to mute some of that power. A great job of working the elbows, stunning Lewis with the right elbow that started all of the downfall, landing a couple great hooks and uppercuts, and then the big right elbow sends Lewis plummeting to the ground in an unconscious fashion. Tai Tuivasa, that's 2 big wins in a short amount of time here. He puts himself at number 3 in the rankings. I think he's a good negotiation chip to be there for an interim heavyweight title fight, possibly getting in the mix. If you're Tai Tuivasa, I'm pretty sure he's just here to fight right now, and he'll be a company man. Curtis Blades, Chris Daukaus, outside chance if he gets either one. Volkov, Rosenstruck, quite possibly. Most of us would say hold out for Miocic, Gane, Ngannou, John Jones. You're right there in the mix. This changes the trajectory of the heavyweight division in a big way. It knocks Derek Lewis all the way down 2 spots to number 5. So the whole division got pushed down a couple spots with that big upset. Welcome to the party, Tai Tuivasa. He's a player in the division. Also on that main card, Renato Moicano suffocated the power of Alex Hernandez in the first round. In the second round, opened up with his striking, took advantage of his speed from not having the lactic acid buildup, from being used to the grappling, where the much more heavily muscled Hernandez obviously slowed down from a 10 to a 7 in his activity in the second round. Got hit, got hurt, got taken down, back took, neck took for the submission. Bobby Green kicked off the main card. His straights, his killer counters, his able to disrupt the timing of Nasrat Haqparast and just outwork his opposition was incredible. 188 to 76 in landed strikes. In a heated affair, Andrei Arlovski walks away with a split decision. I actually scored it against the Pitbull. I thought that Vandera landed some great right hands early, won the volume in the third round, but the judges tell us that the groove that Arlovski found in the first, in the second, that they saw it in the first, they favor him in the striking in those 2 rounds, and the Pitbull walks away with the split decision. Walking away from the octagon for the last time, Roxanne Modafferi. We all knew heading in that the 45th fight of her pro career would be the last one, and Casey O'Neill outstrikes Modafferi 229 to 110, while surviving being taken down twice. The first and the third, both dictated by the O'Neill right hand to get the split decision. Way to bounce back for Kyler Phillips as he busts up Marcelo Rojo, got himself in the win column after damaging Rojo with a straight right, a right elbow on top of that, and hammering home some calf kicks. Rojo, looking to get the fight to the ground, got out-scrambled. Phillips then went to the top position and started getting fancy. Nearly had the Kimura, but as Rojo tried to come out of the back door, Phillips sits down in the mounted triangle, dropping down some elbows, rolling to his back, and then isolating the arm for the finish. 10-2, was number 15 in the world, and still reason to have excitement about the prospect that is the Matrix, Kyler Phillips. Carlos Ulberg, he improves to 4-1, outstriking Fabio Cherant. I was sure that Cherant was going to be looking to get this fight to the ground, but he was not able to cut down the distance, let go of his right hand. It's 66-13 in landed strikes. The jab to the body would keep Ulbrich actively sticking Cherant, who was not able to get the level. His eye was cut open on the right side. A great victory for the Kiwi. On the early prelims, Ronnie Lawrence racks up 6 takedowns in over 8 minutes of top time to defeat Mano Martinez by unanimous decision. Martinez, in the third round, clipped Lawrence, had him hurt, but again, another takedown would cruise to the victory. Jacob Makun would ruin the official UFC debut of A.J. Dobson. A lot of hype coming off of Dobson as he made his debut from the Contender Series. A home for his right hand was found early on Malkoun's face, but by the end of the first round, Malkoun knew he needed to get the fight to the mat, was going for the single leg, and was really able to change directions as he was manipulating the leg, getting Dobson to his back. 47 landed ground strikes to 4, 9 minutes of control time, and it equals a second and third round of favor of the Australian. That's 2 in a row. Your fight of the night was Douglas de Silva de Andrade defeating Sergey Moraes. Moraes had a stellar first round, a big knockdown, cut de Silva open. This looked like the Kazakhstan fighter was going to have an incredible performance, but de Silva stormed back, 2 knockdowns, both off the right hands, had Morozov backpedaling, trying to get the takedowns, but when the fight hit the ground, it was De Andrade taking the back and getting the rear naked choke. Jeremiah Wells attacked the takedown right away, spoiling the UFC debut of Israel Adesanya's teammate Blood Diamond. The takedown would lead to a back take and the rear naked choke after Blood Diamond tried to explode. Looked like he was just tired of grappling, tried to explode out of a bad position, got his neck took and put to sleep. And Maxine Grishin, who took the fight with William Knight missing the weight limit of 206 pounds by 12 pounds, taking the fight on 12 days notice, and said he had taken the fight when he was about 240 pounds. It seemed like, well, Grisham did a good job of keeping the fight long, showcasing a kicking-based attack, stunning Knight in the first with a head kick. Knight battles back, landing some big punches in the third, but Grisham was able to find a home for his right down for a knockdown at the end of that third round to sweep the scorecards, and not to mention 32 landed leg kicks and 21 body shots. Love the dynamic striking that was showcased by the Russian fighter. Time to talk about the UFC Fight Announcements and to let y'all know what's been going on. UFC 272, March 5th. Remember, the huge co-main event shifted. It's supposed to be this week's main event. It's going to be the March 5th co-main event. We're talking about Rafael Dos Anjos versus Rafael Fiziev. That card on March 5th has also gained at bantamweight Umar Nurmagomedov versus Brian Kelleher. The UFC Fight Night in Columbus on March 26th has gained at heavyweight Chris Blades versus Chris Daukaus. At bantamweight, Montel Jackson has been forced to pull out, and Dana Backrell will be taking on Chris Gutierrez. April 16th, UFC Fight Night has added at welterweight EZDS. Ezekiel Zalexi dos Santos taking on Mornay Lazar. April 30th, UFC Fight Night has added Jaron Gordon versus Rafael Alves at lightweight. Excuse me. Women's strawweight action. Jessica Penne versus Luana Pinheiro. That one is a rebooking. And at welterweight, Gabe Green versus Johan Linnaeus. The UFC Fight Night on March 14th has gained a women's strawweight bout that will see Angela Hill versus Vina Jandiroba. And the UFC Fight Night on May 21st, also gaining a women's strawweight bout, Polyana Viana versus Tabitha Ricci. The UFC Fight Night on June 4th has gained Dan Ige versus Movsar Evilov. It's a featherweight bout. And Poliana Botello versus Carina Silva. That one is at flyweight. We got some Bellator news. Bellator's March 12th card, Bellator 276. The headliner will be a featherweight number 1 contenders bout between Adam Borish and Mads Burrell. Light heavyweights have been penciled in as the co-main event, and that'll be former world champion Phil Davis against former LFA champion Julius Ingliskus. And in women's women's featherweight action, my bad on that one totally, Kat Zingano is taking on Pam Sorensen. Cyborg citing that Zingano would not sign to fight her. We're not getting the featherweight title fight that we hope for in the women's division. Ah, shucks. May 6th, Bellator is in Paris. We know that's going to be Ryan Bader, Czech Congo 2. The heavyweight title is on the line. Announced as the co-main event, you're going to see Melvin Manhoof versus Yoel Romero. Bellator London for May 13th. The co-main event has been announced as Jason Jackson versus Douglas Lima in the welterweight division. We got some Invicta FC news. Carina Rodriguez will be defending her Invicta FC flyweight title against Caitlyn Souza. That card is Invicta FC 46 on March 9th. Rodriguez won the title, defeating Diana Turquino in May by decision. Souza, a 3-fight win streak, 2 of them by TKO, as she will be heading into her Invicta FC debut. Diana Turcato versus Milana Dudieva is your co-main event. Danielle Taylor versus Liz Tracy is your feature fight. Former Bellator title challenger Christina Williams is also going to be on that card, taking on LFA vet Florihani. Then we also have some Eagle FC news. Eagle FC will be back March 11th with Eagle FC 46. Ray Borg will be back fighting in Miami at the Flex Arena, and he will be taking on Ricky Bandejas. Also rumored that UFC vet Anthony Hamilton will be on this card. Now we're going to turn our attentions to this week's action. Start off with Friday night. Don't forget, if you have that Fubo subscription ready, it's going to be the first PFL Challenger Series event featuring the light heavyweights. Former LFA 2 Division champion Joshua Silveria in the main event. This weekend, not going to get too in-depth about it, but Chad Money Mendez. Mike Perry versus Julian Lane. It's BKFC.TV, Bare Knuckle Mania from Florida. Bare Knuckles, $5 mega event. It's their Super Bowl. It's their trademark event of the year, Bare Knuckle Mania. Chevy Bridges, who I got to interview a couple times, got to even work with him back when he was here in New Mexico before he transitioned to bare knuckle boxing. He's also on that card. So if you're into bare knuckle, please support. As far as the MMA action, you got UFC Vegas 48 this weekend. Supposed to be a lightweight main event. It's light heavyweights, number 10 versus number 12. You got the 18-6, number 10 ranked Brazilian Johnny Walker taking on the American coming in at number 12, the 9-1 Jamal Hill. Walker, 4 wins in the UFC, all first-round knockouts. He's done it in a variety of spectacular ways. Spinning back fist, flying knee, elbows, punches, hammer fist. Hill, 5 knockouts. Don't forget knocking out Jimmy Crute, OSP, his 1 loss in his career. His arm dislocated, was kind of flopping around against Paul Craig. You know he wants that one back. Jamal Hill's not talked about much, but 9 wins. Knocked out OSP. Jimmy Crute, the dude has a bag full of tricks and power in both hands. Johnny Walker, from next big thing to flash in the pan. This one's going to get excited, and it's going to happen quickly. The co-main event is at middleweight. Kyle Dawkins jumping in on short notice to take on Jamie Pickett. Last time we saw Dawkins, there was the eye pokes with Kevin Holland. He submitted him, but he finished Holland, but it was due to the eye pokes, so we move on. We move on from that transgression. We move on to this main event on short notice. Incredible jiu-jitsu possessed by Dawkins. Pickett likes to clinch. He likes to strike, but you think he's going to try to keep this one in space because of get in close. Dawkins, again, the rear naked chokes, the anaconda chokes, and the head and arms are all vicious. He has a great choke sequences. Jim Miller, his 39th UFC fight, and is going to be taking on talented Brazilian striker Nicolas Mota. Miller's fought everybody. He has more losses than Mota has fights. A load of experience. It's going to be an uphill battle for the young Brazilian. In the middleweight division, something spectacular should happen when Abdul Razak Al-Hassan takes on Joaquin Buckley. Buckley, we know he has that karate style, a little more flowy with that spinning back kick knockout. Razak Al-Hassan is raw ferocity. Both guys are killer knockout artists. Hassan 11 wins, all by knockout. Buckley 13 wins, 10 by knockout. Somebody enter the Sandman on that one. In the featherweight division, Chaz Scully 18-3 takes on Mark Striegel 18-3, and these are 2 terrific grapplers. Scully, a tenacious wrestler, 10 wins by submission. Striegel 14 wins by submission. In the women's bantamweight division, you got Jessica Rose Clark versus Stephanie Eager. Eager, a nasty TKO from elbows, debut in the octagon. Well, Rose Clark has won her last 2, a TKO and a decision, not cutting as much weight. She was depleting herself going down to 125, 135, starting to put together a nice little run. And early on the card, you got Jonathan Pierce versus Christian Rodriguez. Rodriguez, 7-0, coming in on short notice, 3 submissions, 3 knockouts. Pierce, 11-4. He's won 7 of 8. 2-1 in the octagon, a TKO and a rear naked choke. I like to see Jonathan Pierce put together a nice performance in this one. That UFC card, the prelims, this whole card, ESPN Plus, Prelims, 4 p.m. Eastern. If you're in the mountain time like I am, that's 2. That's a 1 p.m. start if you're there in California. And it looks like that they will not be wasting time getting this one going. It is an early night for the UFC, all on ESPN+. You also have Bellator, Unisville, Connecticut. That's the Mohegan Sun Arena. Prelims beginning at 6 Eastern. That's 4 and 3 if you're in California. Main card at 9 out there, late night in Florida or New York. Where I'm at, that's 7. California, that's going to be 6 for you guys. Let's talk about the main event. Neiman Gracie versus Logan Storley. We're talking about 4 versus 5 at 170. Gracie 11-2, while Storley is 12-1. Gracie putting together a win streak since he faltered. Got into the Grand Prix. The win over Ed Ruth, set back by Rory McDonald, but then came into his own. You get the split decision loss to Jason Jackson. And now the win over Mark Leminger. Bellator knows they want Neiman Gracie and Logan Storley to be pushed. And this is a great stylistic challenge. While on the other side, Storley had the split decision loss to the champion. He got out-wrestled by Amaslav. He gets back to out-wrestle Dante Shiro. We've seen 2 wins by TKO, a corner stoppage. We've seen some great ground and pound when he was in the LFA. This is wrestler versus jiu-jitsu fighter. And Gracie, to be honest, I think has shown us more layers to his striking to this point. You can't underestimate, though, what a Logan Storley putting in work there at Sanford MMA all the time with Jason Jackson, what that will do for his game. I kind of favor Gracie because he's been in some bigger fights, but who knows what the maturation process could be for a Storley who, with Tyler Ray, with Jaleel Willis, with Gilbert Burns, with Vicente Luque in the room, maybe we're underestimating, or I'm underestimating, that Storley doesn't know about the fire he's about to be in. Where Gracie has been there a couple times, John Finch and Rory McDonald, to just name the 2 biggest examples. Been there, done that. It means a lot. Co-main event here, also at 170. UFC vet Chase Rencounter is jumping in on short notice to take on the former champion Yaroslav Amaslav. Since parting ways with the UFC, Rencounter has had back-to-back rear naked choke victories under the FAC banner. Midwest promotion there submitted Cliff Wright and Jake Lindsay. He last fought actually just 2 months ago in December, so we'll see what he can do against a beast in Korshkov, who has incredible wrestling, that power jab, big body kicks. In a lightweight bout on the main card, you have tenacious grappler Adam Piccolotti. Piccolotti was a guy also I thought was going to be right there in the title mix, but stumbled the losses to Goichi Yamauchi, David Rickles, rebounded, got a big opportunity against Benson Henderson, lost that split decision, a win over Jake Smith, a loss to Sidney Outlaw, now an opportunity against Georgie Katahanian. You need one of these big victories if you're Piccolotti to really establish your name for the mainstream. I'm not talking about the hardcores, not talking about the media, I'm talking about for the casuals. Georgie Katahanian, he's won 2 of his last 3, a split decision over Bryce Logan, a submission of Kiefer Crosby, coming off the decision loss to Sal Rogers. You know that insane is more than a moniker when it comes to Georgie Katahanian. Unbeaten Davian Franklin versus Saeed Soma. Soma, more than twice the professional experience, twice as many wins, 8-2, 4-0 is Franklin. Franklin coming off of a victory over the 16-1, I believe it was, 15-0, excuse me, Everett Cummings. It was a 21-second knockout after a 2-minute knockout of Tyler King. There is a reason why, with 3 first-round finishes, Franklin has been desperate to get a step up in competition. Is this too big of a step up? Soma's coming off of a victory over Vitaly Minakov. Don't let the fact that it was because Minakov dislocated his finger and asked for the fight to be stopped. Once he relocated, he wanted to start again and didn't understand why he lost. But before that, there was a first-round knockout of Ronnie Lawrence. The ATT fighter is a big boy, and this will be definitely the toughest challenge of Franklin's career. On the prelims, the former LFA champion Nick Brown in the lightweight division takes on Mondo Nall. The lightweight division will have a resurgence in Bellator in 2022, and I think one of these guys will be on a main card in their next outing. Brown is currently on a 4-fight win streak. He made his debut at Bellator 268 back in October, and it was 98 seconds to force Bobby Lee to tap from a heel hook, while on the other side, Canada's Mondo Nall with a Superman punch knocked out Ricardo Sextus at Bellator 255 all the way back last April. So I really do love that prelim in the lightweight division. My favorite one, the redemption story, a tale of addiction, the tale of coming out on the other side. Brendan Ward's taking on Brandon Bell. Super prospects, talented grapplers, Jalen Bates and Avi Gonzalez are both going to be in action. And veterans meet as tough alums, Deanna Bennett and Justine Krish face off in women's flyweight action, a division that Bellator desperately needs to reestablish because they had done well to do so with Elimele McFarland's inaugural title run, and since the transition of champion over to Juliana Velasquez, I feel like the division has fallen off of the map, and it shouldn't have. So you got Bellator after the UFC, and if you're here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and you want to get out and watch some live action, it's the Fit NHB Mixed Martial Arts Complex Fight World 22 on tap. 16 amateur fights at the moment is what I've been told. Card is subject to change. You know the number is going to go down. Something always happens throughout fight weeks, especially with amateurs. A light heavyweight amateur title bout is scheduled to be the main event. CageMinds.com is the place to be. We will have your coverage. We will be at the weigh-ins. And also go to the website to check out your latest episodes of the Cage Minds podcast, the Cage Minds MMA show. Just in case you missed any episodes, we also got them there. Also, we have MMA After Hours and Pro Wrestling After Hours. And if you go to CageMinds.com/After Hours, you can hear all of the shows from the After Hours Podcast Network. On social media, keep up with Cage Minds at Cage Minds Combat Sports News on Facebook, Cage Minds_CSN on Instagram, at Cage Minds MMA on Twitter. My personal Twitter is at Frankl Mika. And if I didn't tell you guys about enough podcasts, I'm also part of Mike Adams 2.0. To get that one wherever you hear your podcast, because we like to play sports, fact or fiction, talking MLB, NBA, NHL, boxing, and MMA right there, the whole world of sports. So again, sorry to everybody that there wasn't a video. Hope you enjoyed the audio, and I appreciate you watching. Like, share, subscribe, and have a good one.